Edge infrastructure is growing fast, but too often the tools partners need to manage it haven't kept up. Scale computing is changing that, giving partners the freedom to deploy faster, grow smarter, and lead customers into what's next. Today, I'm joined by Scott Mann to talk about how Scale is rethinking the edge, making it more flexible, and giving partners real ways to grow their business. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Sydney. Very excited to be here today.
Glad to have you here. Now, let's start with the big picture. Infrastructure needs are changing fast, and partners are looking for new ways to keep up. From your conversations across the channel, what are they focused on right now, and how is Scale helping them get there?
I think, the biggest thing to call out is the elephant in the room. And there's obviously something that's still affecting a lot of partners is Broadcom's acquisition of VMware. Broadcom's acquisition of VMware is just proof that there's a shift happening in the technology landscape that we're seeing. And there's very much an evolution that's going on in that technology landscape. A lot of that is driven by AI, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more today. But now it's changing the customer's needs. So from a partner's perspective, they've been affected by everything from Broadcom. I'm not going to go into much detail about it because everybody's lived it over the past, 18, 24 months. And there's been price hikes, there's been partners drop, there's been all of that they're dealing with the shift away from VMware. But then they're also changing with those growing needs of their customers' infrastructure, specifically dealing with implementing AI and all this new apps development that's happening around that. So partners need a solution that address that current need for an alternative virtualization solution, but they need more than that. They need the solution that'll future-proof them for those technology changes that are coming.
Scale has been described as the smarter, future-proof platform. That sounds great, but what does that actually look like in practice? What makes the platform different from a design or delivery standpoint, and why should partners care?
Yeah, I segued into that perfectly with the end of my last one, but let's break that down. You're talking about a smarter, future-proof platform, right? From a design perspective, from ground zero, the way that product was designed was it was architecture to be more efficient than any other solution out there. Instead of being this layered approach where you've got solutions built on top of each other, we designed it to be our hypercore operating system to be a kind of all-inclusive server storage virtualization in one. So it comprises of three main components. It's the virtualization layer, which is what everybody cares about. It's KVM under the hood. That doesn't matter. You don't even have to know how to spell KVM. And the bottom layers are block engine. So the block engine is telling data where it needs to be placed and being able to remember where all the data was placed and gathered it very efficiently. And then the middle area, this is what brings the smarter design to it. It's our AI engine that's under the hood called AIM. So AIM, I think, stands for Automated Infrastructure Management Engine. So basically what it's doing is it's looking at conditions on the server that's creating a more autonomous infrastructure for the customers. For their, basically you want to have an infrastructure that's just set and forget, right? Something that you don't have to worry about, something that infrastructure runs and they can go focus on what they care about, which is that next evolution, which is the innovation that's happening on the infrastructure. And then another key component is the delivery aspect, right? Smarter delivery. We do that through Hypercore being the operating system that's running on premises on the hardware. The other component being Fleet Manager. That's a cloud-based management portal. And we've got a zero-touch functionality built into it to make everything from app delivery to installation much better. So things like zero-touch provisioning. Zero-touch provisioning enable customers and partners to be able to deliver a solution without even actually having to touch it on premises. So think about being able to deliver at volume, at scale, thousands of locations within a year timeframe, something that you could never do with traditional infrastructure. And then when it gets to that next phase, we're talking about AI and all these new applications that are coming out and being able to deploy those applications in just as quick of a time. That's giving partners the ability to have their customers innovate at the edge. So it's going from what the traditional data center has always been perceived as that like cost center. And now with the modern data center, it can be perceived as that innovation center, enabling them to develop those AI applications on their scale computing platform.
Now, Scott, you work with partners across different industries. Where are you seeing the most momentum today when it comes to edge deployments? And what are some real examples of how partners are delivering value?
Yeah, so edge is one of those tricky ones. It's one of those buzzwords in the industry right now, but really edge computing is everything that exists outside of the cloud. So obviously there's a ton of momentum that we're seeing from a data center perspective as companies are shifting away from VMware. That's not going anywhere, and I think that's going to be sticking around for the next few years because it's not an easy transition. But obviously, us being that leading VMware alternative, we launched our solution as the VMware alternative from day one in 2012. That's the perfect place for people to go when they're looking for that alternative solution. But then edge computing is also distributed enterprises. So we're seeing massive traction in retail and manufacturing, hospitality, healthcare, transportation, essentially, really any industry that has numerous distributed sites. We're seeing a ton of uptick in it, and a lot of this being driven by the AI application development. And one of those examples, actually, I had one of these customers. I heard a partner. I heard of a customer success story that they had, and they were telling us the story of a project that came to them. And the customer basically said, "Hey, I need to deploy this, this AI application." And they said, "Okay, but before we deploy that application, before we give you a quote on how to deploy this application, we take on this project as a whole. Let's first sit down and talk about your roadmap." So they took it from what are your current needs to what are you going to be doing over the next 5 years, potentially, theoretically. And ultimately, it came down to they needed to be able to deploy this application fast because the customer was looking in a competitive landscape. They're looking to be able to get that application out as quickly as possible. And when they compared our solution to the competitive solution, they were talking about thousands of locations to deploy one application. Took us 3 months to deliver that. It took the competitive solution years to deliver that single application. So what this customer did to be able to deliver, or the partner did for the customer to be able to deliver value, is look beyond that current need that we talked about, look beyond that VMware alternative, and look to what else is coming down for them and create that smarter, future-proof solution for them, leveraging our platform.
And speaking of success stories, at your recent event, your CEO shared a story about a retailer launching more than 30 custom apps in less than a year. What's driving that kind of momentum? And how is Skill helping partners deliver that level of value?
So that's actually the story I was just alluding to. We initially won that deal because of time to market. So it was time to market for one application across thousands of locations. That application is in retail, so it's computer vision. That's probably what we hear most predominantly in the retail space, where they're doing some sort of application for loss prevention, shrinkage, as they might call it in the industry. However, after they got that 3 month deployment, what we saw over the course of a year is they ended up deploying, more than 30 applications. And that's where it goes back to how are they deploying these applications? And this is where the impact of AI is coming into the fold. We're starting to see a lot more AI assisted app development that they leveraged. So when you go into these scenarios, when you give them the ability to be able to deploy all of these applications in such a small period of time versus the multiple years, it goes from being the cost of a project is pretty gigantic, right? You're talking about multiple years, multiple people having to go on site to deploy them, to shifting to kind of like cloud-like deployment, being able to do everything like you would in the cloud, basically, right? So now people have all these ideas from, store managers, inventory control, security. They have all these ideas of things they want to deploy, but they might not meet the end goal of what's going to be meet their ROI for the company. But now with the ability for us to shrink that time to market, they're able to deploy all these applications and they're able to use AI to take a simple idea and some foundational understanding of how to develop an app and then boom, go and deploy 30 applications. This retailer had one application in all of their locations. They were going to deploy one more application. And then in the span of a year, they ended up deploying over 30 applications. So that's like the impact that we're seeing around AI in the edge computing space.
That's incredible. Now we've talked about the shift in mindset. Now let's talk about the shift in delivery. Scale is moving fast toward a more flexible software first approach. One of the biggest pieces of that shift is the Authorized Imaging Partner Program, or AIP. What is it, and how could this change the way partners deliver infrastructure?
This is probably what I'm most excited about because it's one of the top questions. I can say two of the top questions that we've gotten since I've been at Scale, and I've been at Scale for probably over a decade, which is like multiple lifetimes in the sales world. And the two questions we've always got are one, do you guys support Veeam? Happy to say that yes, we do support Veeam, and that is launching basically by the time anyone is watching this, it's available for them to be able to go get, at least from a beta perspective. And in around September 2025, it'll be in general availability. A second question we always get is, can I get my own hardware? Can I bring my own hardware? Whether it's a partner, whether it's a customer. So AIP enables that. It allows certified partners to pre-install and pre-configure scale computing software on their chosen hardware or their customers' preferred hardware. So it's giving them the flexibility to choose the hardware vendor that they want to choose, whether that's the partner's preferred or the customer's preferred. It's enabling them to get hardware faster because it's not waiting for it to go through any additional integration process. They can go get the stuff themselves. If they have it in inventory, fantastic. Streamlining all of those logistics gives us a much better ability to scale globally as well into some of those markets that are very difficult to ship hardware into. And it gives the partner the ability to offer a truly tailored turnkey solution by leveraging their hardware expertise and their relationships with their knowledge and understanding of scale computing.
And building on that, this shift to software first clearly has ripple effects. How could partners use that flexibility to scale faster, support more customers, or reach markets that might have been harder to serve before?
Well, I mean, I sort of touched on it, but the importance of this is that the flexibility opens doors. It offers the ability to serve customers with specific like hardware requirements. So there's digging into that a little further. You've got scenarios that we could never address in the past because we always provided them to clients, right? So we took hardware, we took software, and we said this is what the market demand that we're seeing is. We're going to deliver this out to the market. But we don't see everything in the market. Our partners see things differently. Our technology partners see things differently. You come into areas where it's like ruggedized systems that are required for like harsh environments, or we have technology partnerships where they offer all like ultra small form factor systems, even smaller than the nooks that we have that fit in the palm of your hand, and use cases that maybe we didn't ever focus on as a norm that they're building their own best practices around, their own business practices around. Or it's just price sensitive segments, maybe in the government space where they have very favorable pricing that us and the economies of scale that we have versus them, we can just fall in line with the hardware that they want. We're trying to be that VMware alternative and take them into the next era of the next evolution of virtualization. And to be that, we have to replace the software and not have to replace the hardware if they don't want to replace.
Let's talk about apps. What kind of feedback are you hearing from partners who are deploying multiple applications at the edge? And how are they using that as a springboard to grow their services or differentiate from competitors?
I think like the interesting thing here is that this is that evolution that's happening, right? In the IT world, we were always used to building out the IT infrastructure and managing that IT infrastructure. But now the customer's needs changing. One of the partners that I spoke with, they basically had a customer come to their IT department. The basically CEO goes to the CIO and they say, "You need to start deploying this AI application. It's like, you need to start doing AI." And the CIO is like, "Well, we're not ready for that. Let's go to this partner." And went to the partner, and it's, "Hey, I need you to help me to start deploying AI." And they built a whole business practice around that. And this is becoming an opportunity for everybody out there, right? There is opportunity there, and with leveraging AI to deliver AI, it becomes something that everybody can do. And it's really this convergence that we're seeing happening in the market from apps, the app side, the IoT side, the IT side, the OT side, where whoever is going to be the one out in the forefront is going to lead the pack.
Agentic AI is starting to change the way we think about infrastructure. What does it mean for the edge, and how is Scale helping partners prepare for what's coming?
Yeah, it's another one of those lovely buzzwords. We're also kind of familiar with what it is in practice. It refers to AI systems that are proactively monitoring the environment and then making decisions and taking actions autonomously. So you think of things that we've seen in movies like autonomous robots, that's happening in the manufacturing space, or we think of everything that we see in the news around threat detection, proactive threat detection systems, or smart city infrastructure. We're seeing a lot of that out there. Customer service. Anytime I reach out to a company, there's customer service, and you can tell it's some sort of bot behind it that's running it. That's AI running all of that. So for the edge, this is the opportunity there, right? This means that there's a massive increase in demand for local processing power. So we're bringing all of these AI applications to that machine floor, and that those AI applications are now becoming mission critical applications. And they're doing things sometimes at such a rapid pace that the sheer physics of going to the cloud eliminates the ability to use the cloud. They need such low latency responsiveness that they need compute localized there. And then we've got other things like data privacy that we have to take into consideration now. It's collecting a lot of user data and everything that it's creating into a profile to make decisions based off operational autonomy. All of these are core strengths of edge computing. So the AI model, it needs to run where the data is generated and decisions are made, and that is what's empowering edge computing itself. And that's where scale enables this by providing that resilient, always on infrastructure so it can run those mission critical applications locally with the compute and the ability to be able to manage it all like it's in the cloud from that cloud management infrastructure, but providing it on premises so they get that local compute.
So we've covered where the platform is going. Now let's talk about what partners can do with it. Scale's Fast Track program has gotten a lot of buzz lately, and it seems like partners are jumping in quickly. What makes this program so effective, and how is it helping partners get up and running faster?
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying that we throw around in here, which is people sell what they know, and it's true. Even in today's virtual world, there's something to having a tangible, being able to feel and play around with something yourselves, and that's exactly what the fast track program is intended to do. Partners want to not only conceptualize and understand the architecture scale, but they want to play around with it. They want to try to break things. They want to see where it works, where it doesn't work, and that's what the fast track program enables them to do. It let's get you some hardware that you can play around with, and you can use that in your customer demos in the future. So you can go just how they got on board and then how they got to understand it. Let's use that for training for them, and then in the future, let's go take that to a customer, and they can use that to show the customer, let the customer play around with it. And people buy what they know, people sell what they know. So that's kind of the premise around that, and it's taken off very quickly. We're very excited about it. And anybody has any questions, I'm happy to reach out and let's get you started on the fast track program.
You work closely with partners around the world, and I know you've seen some great examples of innovation. What are some of the ways partners are using scale to stand out, especially in competitive markets?
Yeah, there was a lot of cool success stories and everything that we had at our conference platform in Vegas 2025. And there were some interesting ones that you heard from partners and how they're evolving and how they're kind of building a business practice around the scale computing platform. One of the really interesting ones was an edge as a service offering. And I think that one we're going to start to hear a lot more. Managing applications, managing deployment at the edge, managing the delivery of the applications, the development of the applications, everything like that. And it's interesting where that can take you to in different use cases where you didn't think of, like telecommunications or even like internet connectivity around small remote locations. Some of the customers and some of the use cases that you can check on the YouTube page, I should say, provide a pretty good insight into that and maybe something that people can build a practice around. Um, then there's some other third-party apps that we've seen partners develop that they were in a niche market that we maybe didn't have a feature or functionality. So they were able to use Fleet Manager's API tool. So basically anything that you can do in Fleet Manager, you can run the API through, and they're able to create their own interface for that. That was basically a designed solution to probably one of the, if not the largest media and entertainment company in the world. So kind of expanding our ecosystem by leveraging the tools and everything capable within the scale computing platform. So some neat use cases there that I hadn't touched on yet.
Looking ahead, what's exciting you most about how partners are using scale right now and where all of this is headed over the next year or two?
I think my biggest excitement right now is AIP, the authorized imaging partner program, and getting partners, getting software out there, being able to expand our presence globally faster, and being able to stretch into new markets that we didn't typically touch on before. But on the heels of that, there is some other exciting things that'll be coming down the pike with things like consumption based pricing that everybody's been asking about as well. So I'm just going to plant that seed there and let people get excited about it and reach out and find out more, because that's not going to be very far out. I should see something around it later this year. So it's something that helps replace that need for the VMware environment that they maybe have been deploying before, and help them innovate into some of these new areas, offer that MSP solution that they've always been providing or want to be providing, and evolve them into that edge practices and stuff that we're talking about here today. And it's designing a platform that partners can basically build that business around, like I talked about.
And for anyone watching who's ready to take the next step, whether it's exploring AIP, joining FastTrack, or just learning more, what's the best way to get started?
Uh, reach out, reach out to scalecomputing.com. There's tons of great material on scalecomputing.com. There's our YouTube link, youtube.com/scalecomputing. Go to our partner portal, https://partners.scalecomputing.com. It's easy to register to become a partner. There's a button on there you click and you can log into the portal from there. So very straightforward to get yourself logged in, and reach out or have a conversation with one of our folks on the channel team. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. We're open to any partners coming into the community and using us where they see best fit in their business model.
Sounds great. Scott, thank you for the insight and for sharing what's ahead. Channel partners have a huge opportunity right now to rethink how they deliver value, and Scale is giving them a platform built for what's next. To learn more, visit the website on your screen. For the Channel Company, I'm Sydney Neely. Thanks for watching.